I got one of them.
Hang on a second. I'm just setting this up. Hey, good morning, Rick. Todd, how are you?
Good, Michael. How
Morning.
are you?
Good, gentlemen. Good. Well, we got a kind of a weird, odd segment that I'd like to share with our audience out there. And as everybody knows, I'm Michael Burke with Paradise Luxury Group and been in the business for 20 years. Rick Schaffner and Todd Kerrigan are also business partners on our adult development. And we did some development in Cape Coral and Lehigh Acres in the last few years with some great success. However, it's not always success, but we have issues that come up from time to time. But before we get into it, Rick and Todd, can you just give our audience a brief introduction, who you are and what you're about? Let's start with
Sure thing.
you, Rick, and then we'll go to Todd.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Michael. Rick Schaffner. Todd and I are business partners. We've been developers here in Southwest Florida since 2009. In 2009, 10, 11, 12, we basically were doing a lot of fix and flips, remodeling, reselling them. We started acquiring rental portfolios. We had raised a capital group to buy distressed properties. And then in 2014, we saw the fix and flip opportunities drying up because there was 5 years of those properties being bought up by people like us and many other developers and fix and flippers during those 5 years. So in 2014, we developed the development company and we started building single family homes throughout Cape Coral, Bonita Springs, Lehigh Acres. And, that's basically what we've been doing since 2014. Um, we developed a condo project out in Cape Coral that we'll talk about here in a minute. So
Mhm.
that's basically a brief description of what we've been doing for the last 17 years.
Okay, Todd, just make a brief introduction to everybody so they know who you are. And Todd's driving today, so we can't see his handsome mug, but at the end of the day, Todd's a business partner and he's important on this call to us.
Same thing. My name is Todd Kerrigan, and Rick and I came down here, like you said, in 2009 and started to develop uh, a business down here and bought a bunch of properties to fix and flip and all the distressed properties that were going on down here. And then we went into the uh, building development of the properties, and that's what we've been doing for the last few years, and got into some projects with Michael. Uh, so
Okay.
that's our background.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And I've been in the business for 20 years to this, almost to the month down here in Florida, and been in traditional real estate. And I actually met Rick and Todd. We all play men's ice hockey at Hertz Arena and the stadium. And as you can see, Rick's picture back there with Gordie Howe and Wayne Gretzky. He's an avid hockey fan like all of us, and that's what's brought us together and keeps us together through the thick and thin. Kind of a unique community we have, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah. So, Rick,
Absolutely.
yeah, you mentioned though, you've been doing fix and flips, and also did a lot of development, Bonita Springs, Estero, Lehigh, Cape Coral, with fix and flips and regular builds. How many units do you think you've touched or done?
Oh, I think over 800 properties that we've either bought as rental properties or fixed and flipped them or built them as, single family and condos to sell. But I think over the last 17 years, it's north of 800 properties.
So most of the properties, I don't know all of them because I was involved with a lot of the fix and flips, but most of them, I'm sure you had to deal with the zoning code department and permitting, et cetera. Is that a safe assumption?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, you got to get your permits. You got to
Yeah.
submit your plan. You got to submit your plans to get your permits. You got to make sure you're using licensed contractors, et cetera. We've acted for 99% of this as the developers. We were the money people, and we've hired the contractors, the builders,
Mhm.
the vendors to come in and do the work for the most
Right.
part.
So this is where we're going with this, folks. So at the end of the day, between the cities, whether it be cities or counties, Benny Springs, Estero, Fort Myers, Lehigh, Cape Coral, who do you think's got the what city is the most complicated or difficult to work with?
Oh, that's simple. That's Cape. That's Cape,
Cape Coral.
Cape
Cape
Coral.
Coral.
Cape Coral. All right. And I guess this is really where we're going to get into the nuts of what this conversation is all about. What project do you want to talk first about, Rick and Todd? Do you want to talk about the condos? You want to talk about our houses on Juanitas? I know you got others.
But I think the condo project is the one that is the most interesting of what happened to us in dealing with the city
Okay.
and how it is all shaken out. I mean, it is still it's caused a project that should have been a couple years in process, and here we are, almost 2 years later, still involved in it because of the events that the city imposed on us when we went for our certificate of occupancy.
Well, and I think some of the instances also carried over to our Juanita project. However, let's get into the condo. I mean, I know it's a little bit of a long story, but it's important that you. I want to know more about what happened, where you see the inefficiencies are, because here's where I'm going with this is that at the end of the day, Cape Coral, in my opinion, has some inefficiencies that has been caused some issues and financial hardships, and um, really cost us a lot of money. So I would a
A lot
lot.
of money, a lot of money.
So let's start from the beginning, Cape Coral with the condos. Let's and talk. Give us the address.
Well, the addresses on the two buildings in particular are 1802 and 1803 Samantha Gale Way,
Mhm.
um, on basically at the corner of just west of Chiquita on the south side of Cape Coral Parkway West. So what happened is we went in for our permits in 2021. So I mean, almost 5 years ago, we went in for our permits, and we finally got our permits. It was an onerous process to get them, but we finally got the permits. We had submitted the plans, and the plans were identical. There was three previous buildings built in the complex, and everything was a 12-plex or an 8-plex unit. So there's 52 units in the whole project. Three of the buildings were built in 2016, 17, and 18. And we waited all the years until the market had picked back up, and we had pre-sold 19 of the 20 units that we were going to develop. So in 2021, we submitted for the permits. 2022, we got them, and we started construction.
Hang on 1 second here,
So,
just so I don't mean to interrupt you, but because this is a Zoom, people want to see things. I just want to show them a little bit of the project here because we do have one still listed on the MLS, and
oh,
it's a nice project. Just so our audience, knows can see the quality of work you're doing and the project itself. But they can reach out to us. We'll put the address here. But I apologize for the interruption. I just wanted to share that real quick.
oh, that's
So
pretty cool that you can do that.
thank you. Um, anyways, so continue on. So you had 18 or 19, you said?
Well, we had 19 of the 20 units pre-sold,
Okay.
which then allowed our bank, our lender, to fund the new construction. So we proceeded with building, passed all the inspections as we were building, and continued to move along. And there were various different delays. I mean, what did it take us, Todd? Well over 6 months to just get the fire inspections done.
6 months.
6 months. Um, Todd can probably better describe the process of, what went on with the various different inspections, and just trying to get the fire inspectors to pass this. You want to jump in there, Todd?
Yeah, no, it was incredible of what we had to go through to get the fire inspection done, and we actually had to contact a company out of Fort Lauderdale to come over and certify us for the inspections that we had to do. Um, and they just whatever they just kept rejecting everything that we did, and we just were asking, just tell us what you want and we will do whatever it is that you need us to do. And it was just a lengthy process, and finally we got through it and passed, but just the amount of times that they had to come out, and we just said, what is it that you want? Tell us exactly what to do and we'll do it. And they wouldn't specify what we needed to do. So it was just very tedious and just frustrating that they wouldn't, just give us the actual, this is what you need to do and we'll do it. So it was, and then, the amount of time that it took to get this done was amazing.
Well, for clarity
Well, I
purposes,
think,
though, did this count of the city, Cape Coral, tell you to contact this third party and do what they say to get certified, or you contact this company to get certification for the city?
So we contacted this company to get certified. So myself and three other of our employees went through a process to get certified. And then even after we got certified, they still wouldn't be direct with us and tell us exactly what they wanted. So it was just a lengthy process of trying to get through and do exactly what they wanted. And I met with the chief of the fire department. I actually have a friend who was a chief of another fire department. I had him call and try and help us to get through and just understand exactly what they wanted. And it was just a tough process to get through. And it took forever. I think we were, I don't know, Rick, what was it? 6 months of trying to get through our whole process of getting approved through the fire.
right. And the fire inspections, the building officials, the building department has nothing to do with the fire inspections. So it's two different entities. So they didn't even talk to each other. And, one of the biggest pieces of this is Fire Inspector A would come out and he'd fail us for X, Y, and Z.
Cape
So
Coral's
we'd,
fire inspector.
right, it's Cape Coral, City of Cape Coral fire inspectors would come out and they would fail us for X, Y, and Z. So we would fix X, Y, and Z. But then on the reinspection, it wasn't Inspector One coming, it was Inspector Two. And in one instance, Inspector Two said, well, why did you do that? And we said, well, they failed us in inspection one, so we did it this way. And he goes, no, you can't do it that way. You've got to do it this way. So we would change that. Oh, and then in the meantime, he would fail us for A, B, and C. And so then we would go back, we'd fix X, Y, and Z, and we'd fix A, B, and C, and then we'd go back in for reinspection, and Inspector Three would come out. And he goes, why'd you do this? And we're like, well, wait a minute. This is our third inspection. Now you're failing us for more things. Why can't we have one inspector? And so this is what went on for the 6 months is various different inspectors coming out and as Todd mentioned, they wouldn't tell us exactly what to do. They would just say we failed this, this, and this. So we'd go back.
Well,
Like, how many different compounds did we put in? The guy said, well, you can't put that compound in. You got to put this compound in, and all the seals for the firewalls.
Yeah.
And so it was just very tedious. And as Todd said, I mean, we had the city, the fire chief out there. Then I had to meet with I met with the fire marshal, who's different than the fire chief. It was crazy. So finally, after 6 months, we finally got it done. But in the meantime, those 6 months, we're not doing anything else. We're we can't proceed because we got to keep everything open for the firewalls. Because when you're building apartments and condos, you got to make sure that if a fire starts in unit one, it can't spread over to unit two. So, we finally got it done. We finally passed all the inspections. Um, so we proceeded to continue to build.
All right. Let me pause 1 second there,
So,
gentlemen.
long story short,
Hang on, Rick, 1 second. I got to
we
pause you because
get
you
the
froze.
finished product that we just
Let me.
showed a few,
I'm sorry,
uh,
Rick.
and
You
we go
froze. I'm gonna pause you and we'll restart. Okay.
problem.
All right. Sorry for that interruption. Much better now.
Okay.
Um.
So I don't know where
So
it got cut off.
you were talking about the third inspector and they're not really communicating, and at the end of the day, that you know you were never really given the reasons why you failed inspections. My curiosity is that, and this is going to go so much deeper, gentlemen. It really is. And and we'll go through this process. Do we have the right people in place at some of these cities or counties? And what I'm trying to get at here, if people like inspector, chief inspector, fire inspector, one, two, or three are incapable, I think we should know who they are. And that's my opinion. And if you have bona fide facts, I don't care about using names. So as we go through this process, let's if we can be specific.
Well, it's not so
Sorry to put
much
you on the
that,
spot.
yeah, well, it's not so much, in my opinion, that they were incapable. It was just the process of,
Okay.
each inspector ha- has their own opinion. Each inspector has their own checklist or whatever. Our issue is, why wasn't it one inspector that knew the project coming each time we wanted an inspection?
And saw the first
So that
notes.
don't I'm sorry, I missed your
And saw
comment.
the notes from inspection one. Obviously,
Exactly.
yeah.
Right. So, I think, that was the most frustrating part, is each inspector had his own checklist. And, Inspector three was looking for things different than Inspector one. Inspector one may have passed something, which, we'll get into when we talk about the Juanitas. But so, it's not so much that they were incompetent. They were all, I mean, they were communicative to us, but would not specifically say, this is exactly what you got to do. And I don't know if that was because they didn't want to put themselves on the spot, or didn't want us to be able to say, well, Joe over here told us to do this. So we just had to deal with it, because we're at their mercy. And
Mm-hmm.
that was a big, big problem. So in the meantime, here we are with interest carry costs that are stalled for 6 months, but we still got to pay on that construction loan. So you're
Absolutely.
still paying interest. So anyway, I started to say, we finally get that through, we get it approved. So now we continue to build, and we finish everything, and every step of the way you have inspections, right? So, you got to get the plumbing inspected. You got to get the HVAC inspected. You got to get the electrical inspected. And we're passing, and we build, and we build, and we build. And we go for certificate of occupancy. And this is where the whole thing just falls apart. So in November of 2024, we go in for certificate of occupancy, and we get a phone call from the building officials that say they want a face-to-face meeting with us. So Todd and I and our builder go in, and they deny us our certificate of occupancy. And we're like, well, why? And they said, well, you're 6 inches under the FFE, which is the first floor elevation, and you're
Six
supposed to be at
inches.
6 inches.
Okay.
And FEMA or whatever the first floor elevation is they're saying is at 8 feet. And we build at 7.6, just like our plan said, just like our permit said. And we built the elevation at first floor elevation at 7 foot 6 inches, just like the previous buildings. And this new building official, Shane Kittendorf, who had been hired by the city just 6 months prior to this, um, he just said, "Nope, no, you've got to, we're not going to give it to you. You got to be at 8 feet." And we go, "Well, how are we going to do that?" And so this is the truth. He says, "You have three options. You can knock your buildings down.
Huh. Yeah, right.
You can raise the buildings up 6 inches." So to appease the city, we actually quoted that. What was the number, Todd?
Uh,
It was 1,000,007, wasn't it?
I believe it was 1,600,000 or 1,700,000 was
Right.
the number to raise the buildings.
So we did it. We did it just to appease the city, just because they gave us the name of a guy that could do it. We're like, well, that's not happening. So the third choice was demolish, gut the finished first floor units. I mean,
Oh,
everything's done, right? Floors in, counters are in, countertops are in, sinks are in, toilets are in. It's done. And their thing was, well, you need to demolish the 10 first floor units, four in one building, six in the other, and pour 6 inches of concrete and then rebuild your units. So
wow.
we're like, none of this is feasible. Um, what's our appeal process? What can we do? Why is one guy, basically one guy, being judge, jury, and executioner is what I termed it. As well as one guy being able to do this. And he had a room full of people, city officials, other people from the building department in that first meeting. And that's what they told us. So we walked away from it. We came back, Todd and I came back like within a week of that meeting, just Todd and I, and met with Kittendorf and a guy named Matt Orth and another woman, Becky, and I can't remember Becky's last name right now. And the three of them and the two of us met, and they were like, "We're sorry. We can feel your pain." I'm like, "Well, no, you really can't feel the pain, but you know, but there was no way." So we said, "What do we do?" So we hired an attorney. We had meetings with the city attorney of Cape Coral. I can't remember if the city manager was in there or not, but the city attorney was definitely there, along with the building officials and our attorneys, and they wouldn't budge. So we said, "All right, what can we do?" And they told us we could request a variance, and we'd have to go in front of the variance committee. So we filled out all the paperwork for the variance meeting. And we said, "Well, what happens if the variance meeting doesn't go our way?" They said, "Well, then you can have a meeting with the city council." And I said, "Okay." So we prepare all the paperwork for a January meeting with the variance committee. We fill it all out, we submit it, we get a call from the city attorney and says, "Nah, we're not going to allow you to even present yourself to the variance committee." And we're like, "Well, why not? What do you mean? Why can you just tell us we can't do it? You told us this is the process. We fill out the application, we submit the application, and you say no." I mean, why? They never really gave us a reason. They just canceled it. So Todd and I had a meeting scheduled with Councilwoman Lori Lehman for the city of Cape Coral. And the morning we were going to meet with Councilwoman Lehman, we get a call from their office canceling the meeting, never to be rescheduled. So we're like, "Well, what the heck? You gave us the possibility of two appeal processes, and then you denied them." So we had no appeal process. So in a strange way, I was out to dinner with my wife one night, and my phone rings, and it is Councilwoman Lori Lehman. And she called, and I looked at my wife and I said, I've got to take this call. So I excused myself from dinner and took the call. And she says, hi, my name's Councilwoman Lori Lehman. I've got a missed call from this phone number. I'm just returning my calls because I told my constituents I would return all phone calls. So I said, well, thank you, Miss Lehman, for calling me back. I said, this is Rick Schaffner. I said, you recognize the name? And there's a pause. And she goes, I do. And I said, okay. And I said, you know, here's the situation. And she immediately apologizes for canceling our meeting and states that she got told by the city attorney, Alexander Boskin, that she could not meet with us. And her words to me were, we were told not to meet with you by the city attorney because this is probably going to end up in litigation.
Wow.
And I,
It's amazing.
and I
City attorney's directing a councilwoman.
not to meet with us.
Unbelievable.
So I said, well, if you were told not to talk to me, and she says, well, I've got you on the phone. Why don't you tell me what happened? And I did. And she was just like, you've got to be kidding. And I said, nope. So that was that.
Okay, wait,
So
I gotta pause you 1 second here. And I want to back up though. I asked you this question when this is all coming down. Every step of the way, which you already said, you pass all the inspections.
correct,
Then all of them. They were monitoring your construction project.
correct,
They approved you.
correct.
They approved the elevation at some point, did they not?
Well, yeah, at application or at permitting.
At permanent, yeah.
Um,
But during the
right,
process, did they inspect
right,
for your elevation
right,
during the process?
right. So here's one of the things, just in all full disclosure. One of the things is they they told us at this meeting where they're denying the CO, they said that they didn't have a record of the um, slab block and beam inspection. Because we passed it. And we said, well, how the hell did we pass? Excuse my language. I said, how the heck did we pass it if you never had it? And they didn't have an answer for that.
Wow.
So we had to go back. So we had to go back and reshoot it. And when we reshot it, they sent their own survey people out from the city. And when they reshot it, it gets shot at 7.6, just like we built it. And they claim, Kittendorf claims that the Florida Building Code in 2010 was changed to 8 foot. Now, our site plan engineer, our architect, our builder, everybody said, no way. That's, nobody was building to that, blah, blah, blah. So again, everybody supposedly misses this. So we said, well, you passed everything. And they just said, well, our $40,000 a year clerical people made an error. Oops.
Oops.
But oops.
Yeah, on your dime.
On our dime, right. So all this goes on. Again, long story short. So Todd and I finally just threw our hands in the air and just said, we got to take it. We just got to eat this. Because we got to get out of this project. So luckily there was quite a bit of equity in the project. So our lending institution, their CEO's quote was, well, we're already pregnant with you, so we're going to give you the rest of the money to, gut these things, rebuild them, blah, blah, blah. So they gave us an additional $500,000. I mean, off the shoot, this cost us $500,000, let alone all the months of interest building up. And in the process, we lost 10 of our 19 previously sold buyers. So we only had 9 people that stuck with us through this process. The other people said, nah, we're out of here. So now all of a sudden, we closed on 9 of 20 instead of 19 of 20. So now we got 11 units to sell, which as of today,
the market shifted.
the market shifted, exactly. We've had to bring our prices down on the project, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, we relented, we gutted it, we poured the concrete, again, all kinds of inspections to make it all happen. And in June of 2025, we finally got our certificates of occupancy. So it was an 8-month process, lots of attorney fees, lots of carry costs, lost buyers, and at the end of the day, I can easily document $1 million out the window in this delay. So we've talked to various different attorneys about what our recourse is. And virtually every one of them said, the city's got immunity. Don't bother. And the city attorney actually told a city attorney in one meeting wouldn't even look at me, and he looked right at our attorney and says, tell your client, don't even bother to sue us because we've got immunity. You won't be successful.
Wow.
So we've tried 2 different attorneys that are well known in Southwest Florida, and they basically said, we did send a mediation letter to see if we could at least get some attention, and they totally ignored that. So in order to file litigation, our attorneys have basically said, listen, if you don't have $150,000 to $200,000 in 3 to 5 years to fight this with no guarantee you'd get anything, we don't want to take your money and get you, $20,000, $30,000 into the project, into legal fees, and then all of a sudden you say you won't have any more money to fight this, because they both sets of attorneys said it's 150 to 200 grand to do it.
Okay.
So, we just, in our opinion, we got caught because the city of Cape Coral got caught with FEMA. And they had 14, what was it, Todd? 1,400 in some cases.
1,482 cases.
Cases of
that the city allowed repairs to be made to 1,400 and whatever that number was Todd just said, property, and threatened to pull the 25% discount for the city of Cape Coral. If you remember, they pulled it at Fort Myers Beach. Now Fort Myers Beach has gotten it back since then, but FEMA was threatening to do that. So in our opinion, pure speculation, but it's our opinion that Kittendorf was hired to save the city of Cape Coral. That was their step of, we're going to straighten this up, we're going to clean this up, we're going to get it all straight, and please don't take that 25% discount, because every resident on the water that had flood insurance would have went up that 25%.
Yeah.
So it's our opinion that we were in the wrong place at the wrong time, and there was no way in heck they were going to give us a break, because they were in so much doo-doo with FEMA already.
Well, I mean, first of all, I thank you for clarifying that. And I know I interrupt you after you spoke to the councilwoman. But did she have any suggestions at that point in time, the councilwoman, about what's going on?
No,
not the councilwoman, the congressman, or the congresswoman. Apologize.
No, it was the council. It was city council. City
council. Apologize. Council. Yes.
Yeah. No, I think she would have been sympathetic, but they weren't going to meet with us.
Okay.
So,
we
just felt
that.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Michael.
You and Todd are very well known out in Cape Coral, in the building industry out here. Was there any other contractors or builders that were experiencing similar or like things? Maybe not at such a high level, but on an individual basis, maybe?
The only one that the city told us about was Holiday Builders had built a house, and they wouldn't give them the CO. And so Holiday Builders actually knocked the house down and put in the fill and rebuilt the house. Well, that might have been palatable to somebody of their size to just eat one deal. Well, we didn't have just one house. We had 20 condo units. Well, we weren't going to knock that down. I mean, at that point in time, we were into the project for almost $4 million. So we weren't going to knock it down and start over. you know, Holiday Builders made you know, they made the election and knocked it down because they couldn't win their battle. Now, how many other ones? How many other ones were there? We really don't know. Our site plan engineer, his argument was if this code went into effect in 2010 that nobody knew about, he said, you got hundreds of projects in Cape Coral that didn't meet the 8 feet. They were
Right.
built on the 7.6. And actually, the building officials told us never to bring our site plan engineer back to any meetings because he was beside himself, rightfully so. But they told us don't ever bring him to another meeting with us.
Why? Because he
So
was proving them wrong.
I think maybe his conduct in the meetings,
A little passionate.
very,
Okay.
and in our opinion, rightfully so.
Yeah.
But
Well,
so at the end of the day, Michael, we just, in our opinion, we didn't have any recourse. We didn't have any source of appeal, and we were at their mercy. And we have investors involved in this project, along with ourselves. We had the local, community banks, Sanibel Captiva Bank involved, and our, we wanted to try to protect all those people as much as we could, and we have. But again, we're still carrying a that should have been gone a year and a half ago. And we still
you're
got,
carrying
got
what,
nine
9 units,
units
you said?
to,
9 units?
pardon?
You're carrying
To
9 units, right?
we're still got 9 units to sell. And
Um,
so our construction loan is still not paid off. And we certainly have not seen any profits. We won't see any profits. But we just want to get out. But we're not going to fire sale the units either. I mean, then
well,
that screws all the current owners. If we just fire sell the units and just get the heck out and walk away and be done with it, we're trying to protect the owners and the buyers that we've sold to. We don't want to,
but the
plummet.
market's what the market is because the market shifted. So as a builder developer yourself and as a realtor myself, the buyers make the market. And I understand you're trying to protect it, but you got to still take care of,
Yeah,
take care of yourself and the company too. So,
exactly. Yeah.
so
So we
my,
we we have we have dropped the prices
Mhm.
3 or 4
And you know what? We'll share
times.
the address. I will go back and edit the graphics a little bit and share the address over there so that people are aware if they want to look at this. So you said an attorney would possibly 150 to $200,000 retainer to take the case. Now,
Right.
it sounds like there's a few, maybe I'm sure there's more out there that ran into similar situations now. If you had 200 grand with like a class action type thing, would you chase the city? Do you, or
Yes.
you really believe they have immunity? No, never mind. You answered the question.
Well,
Yes.
they're right. I mean, they've certainly told us that they do. We've had other attorneys tell us that they do. Um, but there's this thing called errors and omission insurance. Does the
Right.
city have that? Is there a number that the city would say, okay, go away, you guys are a pest, here's some dollars. But I mean, but even at that, is there, if we spent that money and they had errors and mission insurance, it might not even cover what the legal fees would be.
Right.
And
Right.
so it's
All right.
yeah, I
Well,
mean
what I will say though,
we're kind of
but
caught. We'd love to sue them because we feel wronged. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. We were wronged. You can't you can't have passed everything, even if you screwed up, and you shouldn't have allowed us to go past the slab block and beam. But nobody told us. And when they passed the slab block and beam without the elevation certificates, unbeknownst to us, they didn't have them, but they passed us. So how the heck were we supposed to know they didn't have them when they passed it and allowed us to continue to build? And that's really the crux of everything that we've never been given a direct answer. They just
but
blame our builder. They blame the builder for not submitting it. Well, wait a minute. What did you approve then?
yeah, I
What did
mean,
you
we
approve?
went through this on the Juanitas, not to mention every step of the way through every inspection after the fact. So, I will make a comment here where, if anybody else is out there that has felt this type of pressure from the city, because right now it sounds like we need some help to fight City Hall. So if anybody else has had similar situations, please reach out to Rick. I'll leave your information there, Rick, when we post this, and Todd's, of course, and see what we can do. I mean, even as a realtor, we have insurance, and we're monitored every move and wake, not just by the state, but also by our brokers. And it's really no
Right.
difference in the environment that you're dealing with the cities. Now the question is, can you fight City Hall? And and what I'm going to say right now is that we went on for a little bit, which has been a great conversation. I think we're going to end this segment here because Juanita's is another bunny trail that we're going to go down with similar but like and more details of inspections that we went through on our CO. So
Right.
what I will say though, Rick, Todd, besides being great hockey players, I think you guys are great, honest businessmen. And I'm very, very sorry that what you went through and the way Cape Coral treated you. Now, I will say that I built some houses with you in Cape Coral. I will never put my money in Cape Coral ever again. Never.
And neither will we.
I can understand why.
Yeah, we won't either.
Okay.
Yep.
And so, folks, if you would like to share your story or join Rick and Todd in any possible future litigation, please reach out to us. We want to talk to you. And I'm sure if there's any attorneys that like to dig deeper, your information will be right here. So,
And just one other thing, Michael, is
please.
we're members of Southwest RIA investment group, and their leaders had reached out to us to tell this story. And up until now, we haven't done that because we still had projects going on with the city, and we couldn't afford to go out and tell these stories publicly. Why we still had certificate of occupancies to get on those houses. And as you keep mentioning, the Juanitas, which were a partnership with you. So we've kept quiet. Well, we finally got all of the COs. We're done. We have no other projects in the city. So yes, now we're going to go talk. So on Wednesday, May 6th, we're going to talk to the Southwest RIA Association luncheon. And like I said, they reached out to us, asked us if we would speak, and we've put it off until now.
Okay. I'm going to go there. I'll put it on my calendar, but I'll get that May 6th, you said?
Yeah, Wednesday, May 6th. It's a lunch.
And I'll try to get as much video and information to continue on this series, this saga that we're dealing with. And look, we're not trying to be difficult here. We just want to be treated fairly and honestly like we do our business. And
right.
You were not, in this case, you and your company was not treated fairly through the process, especially from CO going on. And when we get into the Juanita story, I think there was some animosity carried over. So all I gotta say, folks, stay tuned because there's more to come. So Todd, Rick, thank you so much. If you have any parting words, we'll continues on. But do you have any parting words for us?
Thanks for doing this, and yep. Thanks for doing this, and we appreciate it. And I agree with you 100%. I think we're on their list, and that caused some problems with the Juanitas as well. So,
well, Todd, you were on the front line. You took a lot of heat out in the field, so I feel for you and your family, and I'm just glad it's over. I'm sure you are.
Well, there was.
Yep,
me too. When we talk about the Juanitas, Todd can tell you. I mean, he was told by inspectors that
it's going to be a good story.
We're on the list.
So, God bless you both, and look forward to the next one. And I'll talk to you soon and see you on the ice.
All right, Michael. Thank you very much.
I'll see you on the rink.
All right.
All right. Thanks a lot. Take care.
All right, so
thanks, Michael. Yep.
All right.
He's gone.